Welcome to Module 4 of Generative AI. This module is about prompt engineering. In this module, we'll explore what prompt engineering is about, foundations of effective prompting, patterns and templates, and some advanced prompting techniques. So let's get started. I'm using SecureGPT to show with an example and explain what a prompt is. I type a rose is, and the answer is a symbol of love and beauty. Is that what I was expecting? Most likely not. So let's change it. A rose is, or say like this, I am asking about plants. A rose is, and it says a flowering plant. And most likely this answer is what I was looking for. Let's change it a little bit more. I change this and say, give me the answer, give me a one-word answer. And then I say a rose is, and it says floral. Most likely this is what I was looking for. So what is prompt? When I type this, this is like a question to AI, and our AI generates an answer. I change the question or the instruction slightly, and the AI triggers to give a more refined answers. I changed it even more to give more, ask AI to give me a precise question answer, and it does that. So a prompt is the input that you give to AI, and AI generates the output based on that input. In other words, the prompt is what you type or say to AI, and AI generates a response. For example, we worked through some examples, and here another example. Write a poem about the moon. So if I ask AI, write a poem about the moon, and see what AI does. I get the poem. So this is a prompt. This is a prompt because this is what triggered AI to give me the precise answers. Let's explore another term called instruction. Instructions are like giving guidelines or set of rules to help AI understand how to respond or how to generate the answers. So the instructions can be embedded inside a prompt, or it could be separately written. The instructions are typically used to instruct AI how to format or how to generate the output. So the difference between prompt and instructions is that prompt tells AI what to do, and instructions tell the AI how to display the answer or how the answer should look like. So prompts are about what, instructions are about how. The prompt engineering is the art and science of creating effective inputs for the AI models. It's sort of the language that you actually use to instruct AI what to do and how to generate the answers. If you want to use large language models very effectively, whether you are a user or you are a developer, learning this important skills or the prompt engineering skill is very important. In this video, we will explore certain techniques of prompt engineering so that you customize your questions, you actually format your questions in such a way that AI generates the relevant answers for you. And that is what the prompt engineering is about. So, what makes it prompt? So, these are the elements of prompt. And I have listed out these elements with their descriptions and some examples. So, in a prompt, the prompt consists of an instruction or a task. It may have a background information called context. You can also provide some input data, and you can ask AI to generate the output in certain format, that means output format. And you can ask AI to play certain role or persona, such as you may ask AI that you are a lawyer, and now generate the answer as if you are a lawyer, or generate the answer as if you are a scientist or an engineer, or so and so forth. Constraints are that once the answers are generated, what constraint or boundaries you want to give to, well, you want to actually uh, let AI to generate the answer within. In our rows example, if you remember, we gave the boundary that give the answer in just one word. Similarly, you can give the boundaries such as give me the answers in 500 words or less, or you can give the boundary such as give me the answers in, if it is structured data, give me 500 rows of the data, and so on and so forth. We'll explore these elements with some examples. It is important to note that a prompt does not necessarily have to have all these elements in a single prompt. That means you may have a combination of these elements in a prompt. Some prompts may just have instructions, other prompts may have other information. So we are going to explore with some examples to actually work through these elements and see how we structure our prompt. Let's work through some examples and see how these prompts and the elements of prompts work. We'll use an example from an engineering use case where we are going to use some of the prompt elements such as role, task, format, and constraint. Here is my prompt. It says you are a mechanical engineer. That means that's the role. Write a step by step explanation of how a four stroke internal combustion engine works. That means it's a task. Use bullet points. That's a format. And limit it to no more than 8 steps. If I just copy paste this entire prompt in Secure GPT, making sure that the context mode is no context, and if I just copy paste the entire prompt, you see that it started giving me the step by step 8 steps that I constrained it and with bullets. So here are 8 steps. In this case, as we see, there are these prompt components were utilized. Now let's take another example where this is from finance. And I'm saying the prompt is you are a financial advisor. Explain the concept of compound interest, which is a task, to a 16-year-old, which is the audience, in a friendly and easygoing tone. Now, if I just use this as my prompt, as you say that it is, hi, young investor, started with that. And then it is explaining the compound interest with examples, and and it actually applied the same, here it's explaining that means a task, 16-year-old, so this is for young investor, and so on and so forth. Now let's take another example from a business domain. In this case, I'm going to use role, task, context, format, and constraint. A lot of elements from for a lot of prompt elements. So here is, I'm just copy pasting. It says you are a management consultant. See that? This is the role. Draw a draft a SWOT analysis task for a mid-sized e-commerce company expanding into South Asia. So this is the context, background. Keep each section, that means SWOT, under 50 words, the constraint. Present the answer in a tabular format. So let's see how this looks. So as I asked, present the answer in a tabular format. That means the format, and it started producing the answer in a tabular format. So as you see, the power of uh, prompting with the right elements. Let's take another example from creative writing. Again, in this case, I'm using task, constraint, style, and format. Here is my prompt that says write a short story, which is a task, set entirely on a train during a thunderstorm. This could be a constraint or could be background, how you consider that. The story should have a suspenseful tone. That's my style. And to be told in the first person, that is format. You see that different elements are structured slightly different in different contexts of different domain, but it essentially does the same thing. So let's copy paste this and see how this works. So here it started with the thunderstorm as a constraint, and here is the final story. Again, hope you're getting an idea about how to use different elements of a prompt to customize your prompt the way what you want your answer. Let's take another example for marketing. Here, role, task, audience, format, and style are used, and here's my prompt. You are a digital marketer. Write an Instagram caption. That is the format. Prompting a new eco-friendly water bottle. Task to Gen Z consumer, the audience, using playful and trendy tone, which is the style. And if I just use this, you see here, it's a playful and trendy tone. Hey squad, we are low key. Low key is a very popular Gen Z style. So here is a very short digital marketing content. Hope this gives you some idea about how to use different elements of prompt in particular cases or scenario that you are trying to get the answer within. Now, let's understand the next interesting topics of prompting. There are various types of prompts. For example, zero shot prompts, and I'll explain what these are. One, few, or multi shot prompts, chain of thought prompts, prompt chaining, and reflection. Let's explore these types of prompts in a little bit uh, details with some examples. Examples help to understand these prompts because there's really no science around this. It's the structure, the usage, and how you use the prompts. That's what you get from this video. So here is zero shot prompt. What it means is that you ask LLM to do certain things. For example, in this case, it's a sentiment analysis, and I'm asking to do sentiment analysis within these three sentiments: positive, negative, or neutral. And here is my review text. Now, why it is called zero prompt? Because in this case, Gen AI is going to read this sentence, and based on its prior knowledge, it is going to classify this sentence into one of these labels that I'm asking it to classify. That means I did not provide examples to AI what positive sentiment means, what negative sentiment means, and what neutral sentiment means. That means AI has not been given by me any instruction how to classify a sentence into these sentiments. AI will do the classification based on its prior knowledge. And therefore, this is called zero shot prompting because we are giving zero instructions or zero example to LLM how to classify. So let's look at this, how this works. So if I copy that, it says the sentiment of this review is negative. Here's that. Although reviewer mentions a positive aspect that the app's clean design, the negative aspect, that means the app crashing too often, is more prominent. You see that it's a reasoning and it's actually arriving to the conclusion based on very strong negative sentiment that is very clear from these two sentences or the paragraph that I provided. This is an example of zero prompting. That means no information was given to LLM to be able to determine what positive, negative, or neutral means. Now let's take another example from legal domain where I'm asking AI to summarize a legal document or clause in plain English so a non-lawyer can understand. And I will provide the text here. So let's just first copy this. And instead of the text, I will provide employment agreement, and I'm copying that employment agreement right here. So I copied the entire employment agreement right from here, and I'm asking it to summarize. Let's see what it does. So here is the summary, and it's summarizing the agreement in plain English, and it's identifying the key points, and here is the summary. I did not provide any information to large language model what summarization means, how to summarize it, and what is plain English. LLM did it based on its prior learning. That means we provided zero example, and therefore this is an example of zero shot prompting. Let's understand what one shot prompt means. In this case, we will provide one example to LLM and give the instructions or prompts, and LLM will use that one example that we provide to be able to generate the answer. For example, in this case, I'm saying classify the customer ticket into one of the following categories: billing, technical issue, feature request, and general inquiries. I'm giving one example. Ticket is I was charged twice for my subscription this month, and the example category is billing. So this is the example that I am actually providing to LLM to learn from and then use this as an example to classify into these four categories. And now I said, now classify this ticket. Ticket is the app freezes when I try to upload a file. So let's see. If I just simply, if I provide this, copy pasted everything, and it says this is a technical issue. So you see that based on the example that I provided, which was a billing example, but it was able to accurately classify into one of these four categories that I asked it for. In this case, we provided one example, and therefore this is a case of one shot prompt. Let's take another example, few shot prompts. In this case, I'll provide few examples, and based on that, LLM will actually generate the answer. In this case, I'm providing three examples. Classify the customer ticket into one of the following categories. And then I provided an example of billing, an example of general inquiry, an example of feature request, and now I'm asking it to classify. Let's see what this does. Now, based on this, it again recognized it accurately because my question was the app crashes. So again, based on those three examples, it was able to accurately classify. Therefore, this is an example of few shot. That means we gave only a few examples for LLM to learn from in order to answer my question. Here is multi-shot prompt. In this case, I'm providing multiple examples. In this case, five. Similar question again, and I provided five examples. And then I'm asking it to classify. Let's see what it does. And here I said my question was, my account shows trial expired, even though I paid yesterday. This clearly looks like a billing issue and therefore it accurately classifies billing. In this case, you see that I provided billing example, general inquiry example, technical issue, general inquiry again, feature request. Based on this, it learned and it started answering the question for my scenario. Let's understand what chain of thought prompting is, also called COT. COT is that the model actually think step by step before producing the answer. Let's understand how this works. In this case, I'm going to provide details that here is a customer applies for a loan with the following details: annual income, credit score, existing debt, employment type, loan amount requested. Based on this customer profile information, I'm asking, is the customer eligible for a personal loan under our policy? Think step by step. So I ask LLM to think step by step. And I provided my expected chain of thought. This is going to be expected chain of thought output. Let's see how it works. So I will just copy paste this much and provide that to LLM. And it says, a challenging question for a smartest AI assistant. To determine customer eligibility for a personal loan, let's analyze the provided detail step by step. And hence, annual income, credit score, existing debt, employment, loan request. And now let's consider the hypothetical loan policy. Again, I did not provide any loan policy. It actually started thinking hypothetically, and based on these factors, the customer's eligibility for personal loan under our policy is uncertain due to loan amount exceeding our limit. I did not provide the policy information. What if I had provided the policy information? It would have probably done more accurately. Hope you get this idea that loan chain of thought means that in order to arrive to the answer, AI is going to think step by step before it gives you the final output. Here is another example for step by step thinking. It says, we are launching a new productivity app aimed at busy professional between 25 and 40. And here is my ask from LLM. I copy paste and say, tell me whether is this person good fit for our product. I gave 29 years constraint, professional and all that, and it started thinking step by step: age, profession, pain, device usage, and then considering these factors, let's evaluate that. And then finally it says, based on these factors, the user is an excellent fit for our productivity app. That means it has done an excellent job evaluating the scenario step by step before giving and arriving at answer. Let's consider another example from healthcare. In this COT example or chain of thought example, we are trying to do a diagnostic reasoning. Please note, this is only for educational purposes and not for any medical diagnosis. Let's understand what this is asking. A 52-year-old presents with chest pain, shortness of breath, and a history of high cholesterol. Think step by step to determine the most likely diagnosis. Let's do this. In this case, it started thinking step by step, and it says the symptoms are these, history is this, age, and considering this, the likely diagnosis could be one of these, and less likely diagnosis could be these. And therefore, it has started it not only it actually gave the step-by-step reasoning and the conclusion, but it also provided the next step. However, this is very important that it has actually given the final diagnosis, but please do not use this diagnostic tool for any medical reason. This is only for educational purposes. So here, the most likely diagnosis is myocardial infarction, called heart attack. With the chain of thought prompting, now let's move to the next prompting technique called, let's take another cart example from supply chain. And here is what I'm asking LLM. Very important to know that I'm actually asking it to do a step by step. So the question is that a warehouse currently holds 300 units of product. Give the full background description. The average daily sales are 25 units, and the lead time from the supplier is seven days. This is a very classic supply chain problem. When should we order? Think step by step. And it has given a step by step thinking, and then finally provided the calculation and a final conclusion. We should order when the inventory level reaches 125 units. Let's get another cart example from HR or human resources to do the candidate fit assessment. Here is my candidate. I'll first copy paste, let it run, and while I'm reading this, so here a candidate has 5 years experience in sales, has managed a small team, and has worked in both B2B and B2C environment. The open role in sales team lead in a fast-paced B2B SaaS company. Is this candidate a good fit? Think step by step. And it has given me step by step instructions, given me rating and final recommendation. Consider the candidate for a sales leadership role, but not the sales team lead position. So you see that it has given me a step by step thinking process, and then finally it arrived to a calculation, the recommendation. So these examples are, hope these examples are helpful to understand how COT or chain of thought prompting works. Let's understand yet another powerful prompting technique called prompt chaining. In prompt chaining, you have multiple prompts. The output from one prompt is fed as an input to the next prompt, and so forth until the final step. Here is some example. In this case, from business proposal refinement, so assume that I'm writing a business proposal and I'm refining my proposal step by step. Here is my process. Step one, brainstorm 3 innovative product ideas for the fitness tech industry. So I gave the industry name and say, give me some idea, 3 innovative ideas. And then take the number one idea from the step one and write a 3 paragraph business concept, including value proposition, target audience, and competitive edge. Ask what you want. And then, final step, based on step two, generate a 6 slide pitch deck outline. So let's do it. I'll start a new chat. And here is, I just copied pasted. Now it started giving me the 3 product ideas smart fitness mirror, wearable biofeed devices, and then virtual fitness coach platform. And then, as I mentioned, take the number one and build the business outline. And here is the value proposition of a smart fitness mirror. Value proposition, target audience, competitive edge, and then it actually created the pitch deck. So you see that it's taking the input from the previous prompt and going to the next one and then third one and so on and so forth. And then it gave me the six six slide pitch outline. This is what the prompt chaining means. Let's understand a very powerful prompting technique called reflection. In this reflection technique, AI is given the prompt to evaluate its own output. In other words, let's say I'm writing code in Python to calculate, let's say, a square root. I will ask AI to write the code, and after the code is written, take that code and then pass it to another evaluation process and see whether the code will execute or not, or it will give the desired output or not, or whether the code does error handling or not. So you can ask LLM to evaluate the output that it generates, and that is called reflection. So let's see how it works with some example. So here is an example of business. It says strategic recommendation refinement using reflection. What I'm saying that suggests a strategy for increasing user retention in subscription-based fitness app. So it will devise the strategy and then say reflect on the proposed strategy. That means evaluate the proposed strategy, its strengths and weaknesses, and how could it be improved. So first it will write the strategy, it would evaluate the strategy and see how it could be improved, and the last step is saying that rewrite that based on this suggestion that you provided. So based on the improvement suggestion, if any, recreate the final business strategy incorporating the suggestions. So let's run this through and I'll create yet another new chat so we have a clean slate. And here, so initial strategy, remember first strategy, it is actually writing. So here is the initial strategy and the initial strategy. And then finally, reflection. That means it's doing the evaluation of this output. And based on that, it actually generated strengths and weaknesses, which I asked before. And then say improvement suggestion. These are 4 improvement suggestions. Now it took the improvement suggestion, applied to the business strategy, and it is doing the revised business strategy. And therefore, it's writing the complete revised business strategy and filling those gaps where it identified the weaknesses and then rewrote the strategy or augmented the strategy. This is how reflection works. In reflection, you ask LLM to do certain tasks, LLM will perform the task. Then ask LLM to evaluate that output from the task. And LLM will actually evaluate and ask LLM to recreate or redo the task and take the suggestions from the reflection. Let's take another example. This is a very classic example for most people who work with code. Here I'm asking to write Python code to calculate the factorial, and then ask, does the function above handle all input cases correctly? If not, find the missing or incorrect values, and then if any case is missing, that means if any input case is missing, fix and revise the code. After that, evaluate if the code will execute or not. And then do one more final check to ensure the code is enterprise quality, handles all exception properly. If not, revise the code. So you see that I'm really asking what I would typically ask a developer to do this. So let's see. So it is writing the code to do the factorial in Python. And it wrote the code, looks good. However, does it handle all cases correctly or not? It says it handle positive integer, zero, negative integer, non-integer inputs. Perfect. But it does not handle non-numeric input. What if I give a string? So here is my revised code that it has generated, and it has done an excellent job in revising to take care of that input case. Now, final check for enterprise quality. So what is enterprise quality? We can add doc string, we can use try except block, we can use logging library because earlier there was no logging done. Now the code is looking much better. Enterprise class code. So this is how you would use reflection to let LLM do some work, generate the output, ask LLM to revise the output, and first evaluate the output and revise the output. There's very important topic called prompt pattern. Prompt pattern is reusable prompt structure. That means you create this structure and you can use it over and over or share with your team. Now, what this structure does, that it actually has, so you have the format or structure of the prompt for certain outcome that you are expecting from this prompt. And then typically this is done for a very domain specific, sorry, this is done for domain agnostic tasks. It is actually typically you build this pattern based on you observe how LLM works, and then you build that so you use it over and over, or you can actually let your team use it over and over. So here is an example of prompt pattern. For example, instruction pattern that we saw that before. Summarize this text in 3 bullet points. Role pattern, you are a legal advisor and ask LLM to do something. In case of so in this case it's input, so input task output pattern. Here, given this email, that is, you give the email, generate a polite response. Next one is critique and revise. Critique this response and suggest improvements. So these are some of the examples of patterns that either you use over and over based on your particular way of working or data or scenario, or you just build this pattern and share with your team and they can use it for you for their work. Let's understand the template. The prompt template normally is used in programming and writing code to leverage LLM. In this case, you build a template with variables in it, and when the program runs, it will actually substitute the value of those variables and it will build a prompt. So here is example. You are, and here the variable is role. So you define the role dynamically and it will say you are, let's say you define the role as a lawyer, let's say you are a lawyer. Or you define a role dynamically as an engineer, it says you are an engineer. And your task is, and define the task. So if it's a lawyer, what the task is, summarize the legal document. If you're an engineer, explain tensile strength. Here is the input you need to work with, and you give the input and then write the output in this format. So this is an example of template. So I can have this template in my code, and these variables will be dynamically populated and will fed to LLM, and LLM will generate the output. Here is some example or difference. Difference between pattern and template. Pattern is more like strategy, and template is reusable prompt with fillable slots. That means the variables can be assigned values dynamically. Abstraction, meaning this is very conceptual. Prompt pattern is very conceptual. It's not real thing. This is just a habit or pattern or observation. And this is practical, ready to execute once you fill the variables. Reusable, this can be reused across many use cases because this is how you see the pattern or the behavior of LLM. You can use in many domain or task. However, prompt template is very specific to domain or use case. You saw the example. So now we'll cover some advanced prompting technique. The first one that we have under advanced prompting technique is called REACT, or reasoning plus acting. In this prompt, you combine thoughtful reasoning. Remember, we had the thought, chain of thought. So you combine thoughtful reasoning and you ask LLM to use certain tools or do certain actions. This is typically used in building agentic AI based solutions. That means you build agents, and the agents does some agents does the reasoning, some agents do the um, utilize tools, some agents do some actions. So here, an example use case where it can be applied. This is actually agent based system like tool using LLMs that, for example, browsing, code execution, searching. These are the examples of tools. So browsing could be an example of using tool. Code execution could be an example of tools. So here is an example. I'm saying the question is, what is the population of the country where Mount Kilimanjaro is located? Thought, I need to figure out which country Mount Kilimanjaro is. Then action, it will be search the country name, and it will find Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, for example. And then thinking will be, now I need to find the population of Tanzania. And then it searches for the population, and it gives the population as 65 million, and therefore the answer it will generate is this. So this is actually reasoning, searching, reasoning, searching, meaning generates the reasoning, take the action, reasoning, action, and so on and so forth. So this is an example of React prompting. Again, if you use this technique with the user interface, let's say ChatGPT, Secure GPT, or any other tool, you will have to execute each one of these steps manually, maybe. However, if you do this in a code or program, then you take the output from the previous steps and then program it in such a way that the entire process is executed as a one single program, but use this React prompting technique. Self ask with search. In this case, you break down a big question into smaller sub questions, answer them, and then combine them. Means big question broken into smaller questions, find the answer of each smaller questions, and then combine the answers. For example, what city hosted the Olympics after the one where Usain Bolt set his 100-meter world record? If that's my question, then sub question is number one, where did Usain Bolt set his world record? The answer probably would be Beijing. And then it says, what Olympics came after 2008? Because that's what it has, right? and then it says London 2012, and therefore the final answer would be London. So this is how it will actually break bigger question into smaller questions, find the answers, and then arrive to the final conclusion. That is called self-ask with search. Another example of advanced prompting is adversarial or contrastive prompting. In this case, you generate two different arguments. One could be in support, other could be in opposition. For example, in this case, the use case for this is the debate testing robustness and bias detection. Here, an example: give me both pros and cons of using AI in hiring decision. If you if you just execute this, you will see that it generates both sides of this story. Pros: objectivity, speed, improvement, enhanced candidate matching, cost saving, data driven insight, scalability. Cons: lack of human judgment, bias, limited contextual understanding, dependence on data quality, job displacement, and so on and so forth. So it gave me both sides of the story, pros and cons, right? So this is what is adversarial or contrastive prompting is, in which case you generate counterpoint, critique, or opposite perspective. This is also very important topic and very important prompting technique called hypothetical Q&A, also called triple H prompting. In Triple H prompting, you have the first H for helpful, second H for honesty, and the third H for harmless, meaning that you ask AI to generate the output based on these three important criteria. That output should be helpful, output should be honest, and the output should be harmless. Let's work with an example. And this is very important to work with ethical and responsible AI. Here is the hypothesis scenario. A user asks the assistant, can I stop taking my antibiotics if I feel better? Write a response that is helpful, honest, and harmless. Let's see how AI does. So it says three criteria: helpful, honest, and harmless. Incomplete treatment, antibiotic resistance, reinfection. It's always best to consult your doctor or healthcare provider before making any changes to your medication regimen. They can provide personalized guidance and all that, right? So you see that it has all these three important criteria for generating this answer. In conclusion, prompting is not just an input, it's a design language for your AI system. Prompt engineering empowers us to turn raw intelligence into meaningful impact. It's your turn now. Design, experiment, and take full advantage of AI systems. With this, we conclude this video.